Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Nanga chiri kuti chinja I hope it will not is showing here. Because I want to be.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
When it is like this, that's why I can rotate.
Okay. So basically, we have just booked for 1 hour. So,
yes, sir.
So I'm sure within 1 hour, we're able to cover 1 or 2 things that may be useful during your exams.
Yes, sir.
This revision package was just designed specifically to tackle some topics that I've seen in the 2019 past paper, which I've not seen in your module that you were given. So we are trying to cover up what could have been missed in the module, so that in case an examiner falls on such topics, you'll be able to play around and come up with 1 or 2.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay, I was waiting for some background noise that side.
We are ready.
Okay, I'll be a bit fast, but I'll make sure that I will take record of this tutorial so that in your own time, again, you can listen to it and pick up whatever you could have missed.
We shall appreciate.
Okay, so we are looking at researcher philosophical standpoints or researcher philosophies. Now, we need to understand that each and every time a person is to undertake a research, he must establish his or her philosophy. And we have got 4 or 5 major philosophies that we use when undertaking a research. And going by the level at where we are, much of our discussion will be concentrated so much on qualitative research, because basically that is our area at this level where we are. So we are saying a philosophical assumption is the theoretical framework used by a researcher to collect, analyze, and interpret the data that is collected in a particular field of study. As you undertake a research, you'll have your own philosophy that will guide you the way you collect your data, the way you analyze your data, and the way you are going to interpret that data in that particular field. There's another student who wants to log in.
Yes, it's me.
So we allow her?
Yes, it's Sharon.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so that's what it is. Now, I'm sure if you have looked at the 2019 August past paper, you have seen that they brought in some of these terminologies that I've heard some people complaining about because they are not covered in your module.
Okay.
So these are the issues that these are some of the philosophies that we are going to discuss, which are used by the researcher. Now, we are going to concentrate on 4 or 5 philosophical assumptions. And our first philosophical assumption is called ontological assumption or ontology.
Ontology.
Yes. So what is this? So when you hear of it, what should come into our mind? It's all about the nature of reality. How real is the nature? That's that. So it relates to the nature of reality and its characteristics. So researchers will embrace the idea of multiple realities and report on these multiple realities by exploring multiple forms of evidence from different individual perspectives and experiences. So as we enter into a research, if we are going to go into a research with ontological assumption, we are going to explore multiple forms of evidence from different respondents, basing on their perspectives and experiences. We are going to discover that the way you look at things is not the way another person will look at issues. So you concentrate on the perspectives and experiences of the research respondents and try to explore that. Then that theory or that concept or that philosophy is called an ontological philosophy or ontological assumption. I hope we are not speaking Chinese.
We are listening.
Thank you very much. So that is the first assumption. And in your question, you were told to define what. I'm sure I saw something to do with ontology.
Yes.
Yeah, they wanted you to define and explain ontological and the epistemological philosophical standpoints or viewpoints. So the ontological viewpoint is that when you enter into the research, you want to explore multiple forms of evidence from different individuals, basing on their past experience and the perspectives. That's the ontological viewpoint or standpoint of a researcher. Do we proceed?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Let's look at epistemological viewpoint. Now, with this one, it's all about knowledge. How do you know what you know? That's what epistemological standpoint is, or viewpoint, or assumption of a researcher. So how researchers know what they know? How do we get knowledge? I'm sure even in this tutorial, what we are trying to get knowledge. So how do we know what we know? That concept is epistemological viewpoint of a researcher. So researchers try to get as close as possible to participants being studied. So if you are getting into a research with epistemological viewpoint, you get closer to the respondents, to your study group. The respondents that you have selected to get data from, you get as close as possible to them. Subjective evidence is assembled based on individual views from research conducted in the field. So it's all about how do we know what we know? That is what this viewpoint is all about. And if you decide to use the epistemological viewpoint, it will involve you to get closer to the respondents and get their viewpoints. That's what you are going to use in your research. So that's that. And basing on this question, I also discovered that they also wanted you to compare and contrast. So once we understand what ontological viewpoint is and what epistemological viewpoint is, we will try also to compare and contrast how we can differentiate the two researcher philosophical viewpoints. Now, there's a third philosophical viewpoint. Maybe before we tackle the third one, is there anything that requires clarification or any comment on the two philosophical viewpoints that we have looked at?
On ontological
Yeah.
assumption.
Yes.
Can you please repeat?
We go back to ontological assumption.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
and try to, in simple English.
In a simple terms.
Yes.
Okay. The issue about ontological is it about reality. If we are talking about anything that we think this is nature, how real is it? What are some of the things that you can talk about which are nature?
The air that we breathe.
So if you are saying, we believe that if a person stops breathing, he can die.
Yes.
Not so.
Yes.
Fine. So if you are a researcher and you want to research on the reality of this, how real is it? You are going to go into that research with an ontological, philosophical viewpoint. Because what you want to prove how real is what we believe in.
Okay.
Are we together?
Yes.
Yes. So that's all about ontological, philosophical assumption. If people are saying that the dead can come and haunt the living at night, and you want to go into such a research, what you want is to see how real is what nature is talking about.
Okay.
That is ontological, philosophical viewpoint. That's why we are saying it embraces the idea of multiple realities. Meaning, we may not have one reality of the same nature. Others may think of this, others may believe of this, others may talk of this. So it will have multiple realities.
Okay, because of different opinions.
Exactly. You are very right. Because of difference in the opinion that may be available. That's why we are saying we want to get evidence from different individuals' perspectives and experience.
Okay.
If we are to research students' experience on the University of Africa, we can't pick one student because your perspective and experience in your period at University of Africa may not be the experience and perspective of another student. Do you get the point?
Yes.
That's what is involved in ontological, philosophical viewpoint. Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comment or concern?
It's okay. I don't know whether the same. I don't know whether the same explanation.
Yes.
Can suffice for comparing and contrasting.
Actually, that's what we are going to use when we are discussing comparing and contrasting. Because
yes,
if
because
you look at
it's like
yes,
it's more or less like a definition and a comparison and contrasting at the same time.
Actually, that's the strategy I would advise you when you get in an exam. If you are asked to compare and contrast, these definitions are the ones that you use. How would you define ontology and how would you define epistemology? That's a difference.
Yes, sir.
That's why you can't compare and contrast if you can't define what you are comparing and contrasting. So you are very right. Are we able to look at the third philosophy?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, axiological assumption. Now, whenever we see this, what should come into our mind is the role of values in research. Are values important in research? Do they have a place in a researcher? That's what it is here. So researchers make their values known in the study and actively reports their values and the biases as well as the value-laden nature of information gathered from the field. Under this assumption, I'm sure if the time you'll be undertaking the actual research, dissertation, you discover that the issue of values or ethics of a researcher become cardinal. It will help a researcher not to impair or to influence the findings of the research. So if you are going to maintain confidentiality, that is one of the values of a researcher. The people or the respondents that will be able to give you the information must be protected. So that falls under the values of a researcher. So that is all about axiological assumption. It's all about the role of the values in research. And you are going to agree with me that values are important in research. Last time I was telling some students that when you are conducting the actual research, you can end up failing to gather information if you lack values yourself. You must give confidence to the respondents before they give you the information. They must identify courtesy in you as a researcher as you're approaching them. Otherwise, no one will give you the information that you need, and you end up changing the project on the middle of the research. So that's what this assumption is promoting to the researcher. So if you're going to go into a research basing on axiological assumption or philosophy, you are going to concentrate so much on the values of yourself as a researcher. So that's what this assumption is all about. Are we together?
Yes.
Yeah. Unless if there's any comment or any clarification about the third assumption. From that past paper, what I've seen, it's like A and B were combined and C and D were also combined in part A, in part B. So if you understand ontological philosophy and epistemological, then you are able to cover question 1A. And if you understand axiological and the methodology or methodological assumption, then you're able to cover question 1B. So do we move to methodology?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this one is all about the methods that will be used in the research process. The moment you think of undertaking a research, the first question that comes into your mind is, how do I do my research? What method do I use? So that is what methodology is. So it's about, it could be inductive, imaging, and shaped by the researcher's experience. So the researcher himself will devise a method that he's going to use. You design your own methodology depending on the type of research that you are undertaking. And that is what you are going to use in the way you are going to collect your research data and analyze the research data and interpret the data, which will result into a research report. So this is basically the method that a researcher will use to undertake the research project. So I'm sure this one had no issues, unless if you allow me to go to the next one, which is the phenomenology assumption. Are we able to proceed?
Phenomenological.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So what is this one? It is an approach to qualitative inquiry that is grounded in certain traditions of philosophy and the humanities. Besides, it aims to reflect on pre-reflective human experience. So if you are going to get into a research using a phenomenological assumption, you can only use this if your research design or method is a qualitative research, number one. Second, it is based on certain traditions of philosophies, and it aims to reflect on a pre-reflective human experience. So we'll concentrate on human experience. How have you experienced this? What is your experience about this? So that is what this assumption is all about. So
Come again, sir.
we are saying, if you are discussing the phenomenological assumption, the first thing you should understand is that it is an approach that is only used in qualitative research. That is the first point you need to bring up across. The second thing is it is grounded in certain or particular traditions. Now, these traditions are traditions of humanities. So we are dealing with the human race. What are their traditions that are grounded in their livelihood? That's what we are going to pick. The third point that should be presented if you are discussing a phenomenological assumption is the fact that it aims to reflect on reflective human experience. If we look at you colleagues there, you have got reflective human experience. Whenever you sit down, there are certain things that you reflect on. So if that is the assumption you're going to go within the research, you concentrate on human reflective experiences. Have I helped somebody?
Yes, sir.
Or maybe I'm just making noise.
No.
I hope I'm not confusing anybody.
No, sir.
So that's basically what a phenomenological assumption is. There are only three things that should come into your mind if you're discussing it. Bring those three things and expand them. It is an approach that is used in qualitative research. It is based on certain human traditions. And number three, it is based on reflective human experiences.
Okay.
So those are the three things. Of course, there are other things. If you look at this slide, it also attempts to recapture and express in language experiential meanings. Meaning, whatever you have experienced, you want to express that. Now, people express their experiences in various ways. Unfortunately, other people Their experiences are expressed in a negative way, such that you even know to say, I think he had a negative experience yesterday. But I think that shouldn't be our case. Okay. So that's about the phenomenological assumption. So I'll send you these slides so that you are able to look at everything that we have written about these assumptions.
Oh, thank you, so much. I appreciate.
Okay. So are we able to look at the differences? How we differentiate ontology and epistemology? So if you look at the slide, these philosophical assumptions, as we earlier mentioned, the two definitions are the difference on their own. So ontology is concerned with what is true or real. That is the first thing. We talked about the reality of nature. That is what ontology is all about. If you look at epistemology, is concerned with the nature of knowledge and different methods of gaining or getting knowledge. So that's how you differentiate the two. Then another difference is the questions that are asked. If you are using ontological assumption, how will be your question? If you are using epistemological assumption, how will be your questions? So the questions like, what is existence? And what is the nature of existence? That is ontology. The questions like, what do you know? How do you know? That is epistemology. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that's how you can differentiate the two. Unless if there's a question on this part, then we can proceed. We still have about 25 minutes.
Let's proceed.
Okay. Then we are also able to differentiate anxiology and the phenomenology. Okay. So we are saying anxiology is used to explain the phenomenon. So it is like the method we use to explain the other, while phenomenology is used to understand life experience. So the other one is the method we use to explain the other one, while the other one is the method we use to understand life experience. That's the difference. Then the other difference that we can come up with is that anxiology can use a variety of methods for data collection. So you have so many ways of collecting data if you are getting into a research with an anxiological assumption, while phenomenological assumption is mostly using interviews. So it has got only one commonly used method of collecting data, while the other one has many ways of collecting data. Are we together? Does this point need any clarification, or we proceed? We proceed. Okay. So if we are to present whatever we are discussing diagrammatically, this is how it will look like. So meaning under ontology, these are the methods that you can use. There's what is called realism, idealism, pragmatic, critical realism, all those. And if you are using epistemology, there's what is called interpretivism, positivism, and post-positivism. All these are strategies that are used, whatever philosophy that you want to use. Of course, I will send these slides so that you're able to understand what realism is, what is idealism, what is pragmatism. I've explained this in this lecture notes, so you can have time go through so that you can make your own points.
Is it possible that the audio can also be sent?
Yeah, usually the best I do, I upload it on my YouTube, then you can just get it, you can download it. Just type Mukoma, then you'll be able to see all my lectures, then you can pick it. I will allow you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So these are just various diagrams. You know, sometimes examiners want to present things with the help of a diagram and the like. So you can see whatever diagram that you can draw.
Okay.
Yeah. So these are the notes I was talking about. They're explaining what positivism is. Okay. It adheres to the view that only factual knowledge gained through observation must be included in the research. So if you get into a research with a positivism assumption, the only thing that you're going to include in your research findings are those factual things that are gained through observation. So that's about positivism. There's what is called realism.
So this is part of quantitative.
Qualitative.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So in your own time, you can look at what realism is, interpretivism, pragmatism, and constructivism. So depending on the type of a person you are, if you look at pragmatism, it's also about being practical. There are people who want practical things. Whatever they are doing, they are so practical. That is what it is to be pragmatic. So if a researcher goes into that with that philosophy, pragmatism is a way of dealing with the problems or situations that focuses on practical approaches and solutions. So that's what pragmatism is all about. Then there's constructivism. This is a theory that believes that learners construct their own knowledge. What I'm only doing is I'm just facilitating learning. Whatever I'm explaining, you'll be able to construct your own knowledge from what we are discussing. That is constructivism is all about.
Okay.
Hello, are we there?
Yes.
Okay. So that's these are some of the assumptions. So these are just trying to explain, to add to what we are explaining. Okay, I'm already told that I'm running out of time. I'm remaining with 14 minutes. Okay. Under question 2A, I think is not an issue. I'm sure those that have got my lecture notes, we have already discussed question 2A, but I also discovered that question 2B, the module did not mention about it. Purposive sampling and convenience sampling. So what I'm going to do is, I will just send these notes so that you can quickly go through. If there's anything that needs explanation, you can let me know. We can find time for an hour, then I can explain.
Yes, sir.
Yes, so there's purposive sampling and convenient sampling. Then we are able also to compare and contrast. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, so the notes are there, how to compare purposive sampling and convenience sampling. Then question 3, 4, and 5, I think it is clear. I saw these things in your module, so I'm sure you have covered them. But question 6, they want you to explain these about 4 or 5 ways that are common in research, especially when you're doing the actual research. In writing dissertation or the thesis, you will find things like dedication, acknowledgement, referencing, quotation, limitation, and delimitation. The module didn't cover some of these, so I've also prepared some notes which you can read. Dedication is an act of devoting the research work to someone, while declaration is the act of formally making something known. So we are comparing dedication and declaration. So basically, then there's acknowledgement and motivation, referencing and bibliography, quotation and citation, limitation and delimitation. So you can go through this in your own time as I send you the notes. So basically, this is how far we can go. Unless there's a question, quickly I can go through wherever there's a concept that needs a repeat. We still have about 6 minutes. If there's nothing that needs a repeat, allow me to end here.
Probably, maybe just going through first question 7.
Only question
7.
7.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Question 7, they're talking about deciphering, first person approach, all those. Okay. I didn't look at it. I just wanted to start, then time couldn't allow me. But I've seen things like differentiating. Okay. Basically, question number 7, all they want is you to explain what is involved. If, for instance, you are talking of deciphering, what is involved? Now, maybe the one thing that I need to mention is you need first to know these things.
Yes.
Deciphering, what is it? Then you are able to know what is involved. Now, I was trying to write something, though I couldn't finish because of time. But what is important is to know what deciphering is. It is to discover the meaning of something written badly or in a difficult or hidden way. If somebody has written something that is not very clear, so you want to discover the meaning of that, what you are doing is deciphering. So now, how do you understand the meaning of something that is badly written? I'm sure this will require critical thinking, not so?
Yes.
Yes. It requires critical thinking. And you think outside the box. You are trying to see if a person writes this, what could be his intention? What really did he want to say? So that is what is involved in deciphering. So those are the steps that are needed, or what is involved is critical thinking, so that you get the viewpoint of the writer. Otherwise, you misunderstand the writer. Are we together?
Yes.
Then the first person approach, again, this one, it was not covered in your module, but in research, first person approach or avoiding the first person approach, it's all about you, the researcher yourself. Ensure that your experience and your know-how will not influence the research findings. So distance your knowledge from the research. So you are the first person. So understand, when the first person is preferable to second or third person, do not use the first person. So avoid using I, no. Because you were sent to know the viewpoint of other people. So avoid the first person approach. Basically, that's that. Under question 7, I think these are the two things that were difficult. Number 2 is about differentiating. How do you differentiate arguments? I usually tell people that arguments, or when you are differentiating, it's all about comparing the two things. Then you analyze. Then you are going to use the RIMS strategy to arrive at what is the correct thing. I'm sure you have covered the RIMS strategy. Is it? Did we cover the RIMS strategy?
Yes, we did.
Okay, yeah. So that's what is involved in question 2. Then question 3 we have covered, that is avoiding the use of first person approach. Then question 4 is about a source to support one's argument. Of course, this is the issue of now referencing, citation and quotations. Whatever you are arguing, does it have supporting information? Yes. So you need the quotations, you need to quote, you need to cite. Okay. That's what is there. I think this one was not complicated. Oh, I think it's number 5. I may have, okay, I'll write something, then I'll send. Number 5, yes, I didn't see this in your module, distinctive voice. But again, when you talk about distinctive, it's about being unique and different. When you are talking, you should talk as an individual. Don't talk as if you are talking on behalf of somebody or imitating one's opinion. That's what distinctive voice is all about. So don't talk like that one. Talk like yourself, so that we demonstrate the individuality that exists. Allow me to end here, unless there's something.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Still need you.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Have a blessed evening.
Blessed evening too, sir. Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.